everybody. Thanks so much for joining the session today. I'm really pleased to be joined by Chair of PoTS UK, Professor Lesley Kavi, and two of our fabulous volunteers, Rachel and Louise. So it's good to see you all. We thought we'd discussed as a team, and we thought it would be quite nice to run one of these webinars that we can put up onto the YouTube channel to tell you a bit more about the charity and give you a bit of an insight into how we spend our time and what our different roles entail. Also how the charity can support you and ways that you can get involved. And what we're hoping is that we'll be able to answer lots of the kind of commonly asked questions that we get. If you'd like to pop any of your questions into the chat box, not the chat box, sorry, into the Q&A box, and we'll try and get through as many of these as we can at the end, that would be fantastic. We've had some emailed in, so we can cover those as well. But yeah, feel free to add them to the Q&A box throughout, and we'll come to them at the end. If Lesley, Rachel and Louise, if you can keep an eye on the chat box in case anybody can't hear or anything like that, that would be great, because just while I'm talking, and I'll do the same when you are. So just to start us off, really, I just wanted to kind of give people a bit of an idea of the structure of our charity. So most importantly, making up the biggest part of our charity is our members and our community. So people whose lives are affected by PoTS, people who are carers, parents, whatever your kind of involvement is, you are part of our PoTS community, and it's the entire reason that PoTS UK exists is to support you. So naturally, you're kind of the most important and at the forefront of our mind with all the decisions that we make. We've then got our team of trustees who are very, very hands-on, very kind of operational trustees in the day-to-day running and management of it, and we'll find out more from Lesley in a minute. I'm the charity secretary. I'm the only paid member of the team, and I work part-time. We've got our medical advisors who are fantastic and who we can call upon if there's any particular queries that we need their specialism in, or helping to review website content, and they're an amazing addition to our team. And then we've also got a range now of fabulous volunteers who contribute in so many different ways. We've got our new peer support volunteers who will come on again to talk about a bit more in a moment, and people who help and assist with just a huge range of different tasks. Lorna, who founded the charity, very much looks after the website in terms of helping us with our like reviewing the content and keeping it up to date and up to standards. And we've got Mel, who helps Lesley manage our support chat box. So it's just a fantastic team, and I think one thing that I really want to get across today is just the real passion that we all have. I think if you look at that structure and think about what our charity do, and we are so proud of what we do, and whilst we know that, oh dear, my battery's about to run out, so just give me 1 second, very quick panic. I've plugged in my printer rather than my laptop. Phew, I'm back. Sorry about that. So yeah, I think it's just really testament to how passionate everybody is about what, as a charity, we are trying to achieve by the fact that it is run so largely on the goodwill of our volunteers and the amazing input that they have. So that's just a bit of background about the structure. For anybody who's completely new to PoTS UK and wondering like what assistance we can give you, hopefully you'll have found our website, www.potsuk.org. We try and ensure that as much of the content on there is evidence-based as possible. We adhere to the Patient Information Forum standards, and everything gets medically approved by our specialists. And there's just a wealth of information on there. We really recommend as a kind of a starting point that people trawl through the website and have a good read as much as possible. If you wanted to speak to a healthcare professional, you can contact our email support box, which is support@potsuk.org. This is in no way a replacement of your own GP or healthcare professional specialist, but it may be that the team are able to signpost you in the right direction or just give you some general advice, but obviously always being mindful of the fact that they don't know your full medical history. Other ways that we can help you are hopefully now with our PoTS peer support groups. These have really kicked off in the last month, having done some pilots in October. And we're absolutely thrilled with how these are going. I think Rachel's going to talk about them a bit more in a moment, but yeah, we're just really delighted with how they're going. If you go onto the events page on our website, you can get all the links to register for your group. So there's lots of information there. We've got a YouTube channel that's got a load of educational webinars ranging from exercise to nutrition, breathing, all sorts of different things. And I think this is a really great starting point for people who are new to PoTS to have a look at, and also for people who have had PoTS for a long time. There's just some great content there from a range of speakers. So when I put this up onto YouTube, I'll put all of the links to the relevant resources in there. Our website's got lots of downloadable leaflets that are really useful, and we recommend people printing these off and taking them to their appointments. We hold events for people with PoTS. So in October last year, we had our PoTS retreat, and we try and run these every other year. And I think moving forward, we will always offer them as hybrid events, so you can attend either in person or online. We did it for the first time this year, and that went really well. We run educational events for healthcare professionals. So this is a really key part of what PoTS UK try to do. Obviously, we need to raise awareness. Everybody understands that. So by educating healthcare professionals and offering them the support they need, that in turn will hopefully improve the service that you are. As a charity, we're really keen to support research. So we try and do as much as we can in this area. And we also do lots of presenting and teaching at conferences and meetings to try and raise awareness and educate. So it's a real variety of what we can do. We're always open to suggestions. We're really keen. We do massively listen to our community. So if you've got any ideas of this would be amazing, can you start looking into this? This is how ideas form and how ideas start. And you know, if you ever do want to get in touch, my contact details are at the end. And I'll share those with you. But yeah, just any ideas are always welcomed, and we can't promise to do them instantly, but we love to get as many suggestions as possible, and we will do our best to accommodate where we can. So I will just stop sharing that for a minute. And what I thought we'd do now is have a chat with Lesley, because I thought it'd be nice to try and find out a bit more about Lesley's role within the charity. But certainly before I started, I wouldn't have had a clue what the chair of the charity did. And I think you could probably sit down with 10 different chairs and get 10 entirely different answers. But Lesley's going to share with us some of the information about what her role entails. So Lesley, can you tell us a bit about what your job involves, kind of what your day-to-day life looks like in terms of PoTS UK?
Well, I suppose like the other trustees in the charity, we have a responsibility to make sure that the charity carries out its purpose and that we keep it nice and safe and secure. As you mentioned already, Jo, we're a bit unusual as a charity in that the trustees take on a lot of the day-to-day tasks that are required to run a charity in association with yourself. Often these are undertaken by a whole team of employees in other charities. So by doing that, we're able to get a lot more done because you know, it keeps down our costs, as you know, everyone does that as volunteers. As the chair, I also have a sort of leadership role in the charity. And then my other role is really the same one that I started out with, which is as a medical advisor. And you know, part of my role there is to answer the queries that come from patients, and we get queries from healthcare professionals as well, so to try and point them in the right direction. I do quite a lot of teaching. I do quite a lot of online and in-person lecturing on PoTS, help to develop educational resources, recently building an online interactive tool that had a little bit of PoTS in it and a lot of syncope. Also, sometimes I have to speak to the media, so that can be TV or radio or newspapers. I write a lot of the content of our website, and I end up writing content for other people's websites as well. And you know, together with the rest of the team, we help to run these educational events such as the masterclass And then finally, as a team, we get involved in research projects, but I also sometimes as an individual get involved in either sort of helping people to run them or sometimes as a co-applicant as well.
Okay, it sounds quite busy, Lesley. And what would you say like the favourite part of your role is?
To be honest, I think it's when you hear that either as an individual or as a charity that we've really been able to make a difference. And, that might just be a patient emailing in and saying that, they'd read the content of the website and they'd managed to work out what their diagnosis was or find somebody to help them. And again, we sometimes get nice feedback from healthcare professionals too, that they say that they're using our website and pointing their patients to it and that they find it useful. So I think for me, that's probably the biggest thing.
Okay. And then each year we obviously have to, as a charity, we have to produce an annual report kind of in line with our end of year financial things. And it's always a really nice way, isn't it, of kind of recapping what we've achieved in the year and what's been done. So we'll be kind of writing that for the previous year in come April. But what would you say your highlights are for the last year?
I think probably, well, there's probably more than one, but I think running the retreat, finally managing to run the retreat was a really big one for all of us because we'd had 2 failed attempts at doing it because of COVID. So it was just really nice to get that done and also to be able to run it as a hybrid event. We'd not done anything like that before. And although, there were 1 or 2 hiccups that we'll learn from, that was quite a big one. I think the other thing I've been working on, and it's not in my role as a charity, it was in my role as a GP, I've been working with the Royal College of GPs to build a lot of resources for their website. So a lot of that's syncope based, but within that, there's quite a lot of PoTS content as well. So that finished in May and I was really pleased to do that. And I think the last thing is probably just very recently, I was invited to write an editorial for the main GP journal on PoTS, and so that was really nice to be able to do and to see the amount of interaction with that, which has been really quite positive. There's obviously been quite a lot of interest in primary care to read about it, which is quite refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, really what we're aiming for, isn't it? So definite progress. And I mean, I know it didn't quite fall within the last year, but from when I started working for the charity, you were kind of knee deep in writing the, co-editing the PoTS textbook. I mean, that must have felt like a major achievement because that was a long project, wasn't it?
Yes, that took I would say about 6 years from start to finish. And I was working with Dr. Goll and Professor Lobo on that. And I think we engaged about 60 authors in total. And I think it's got 47 chapters. So, it was quite a lot of work in putting that together, and it sort of covers almost everything you can think of in relation to PoTS. So that was nice to get that finally published. I think it was a year past last October.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge achievement. So, and hopefully it's proving very useful for lots of people.
Yeah, I can't remember the figures exactly, but it seems to be doing quite well. And of course, we were able to get a couple of very generous donations from people who, and we were able to put that towards the cost of the book, which is quite expensive. And that allowed patients to be able to buy it at a reduced cost, which was really nice. I just wish we could do it again.
Yeah.
Oh
no. So thinking about your role, so in bigger charities, there would be different departments that would look after fundraising and, all sorts of different departments managing all the different sides of a charity. But I think a lot does fall to you as chair and, the fact that we are very small. What would you say the most challenging part of your role is? Because you have to wear a lot of different hats, don't you?
I mean, probably personally, it's public speaking. That's not something that's ever come naturally to me, and it doesn't seem to get any better. So for me, that's probably the biggest challenge. And I think as a charity, quite often people have quite opposing views on one subject. And I think, you know, you can see this on social media and so on. And I think, you know, it took a wee while for us, I think, to realize that, you know, we can't, you know, we can't please everyone, that, you know, sometimes, you know, we have to look at all the information and adopt either one view or the other, or maybe a view that's kind of down the middle. And I think it's actually sometimes quite difficult to do that, because in some situations, you know, either everybody's right or everybody's wrong, and that can be quite difficult to judge.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard, isn't it, as well, not to try and please everyone, because, you know, an example with the feedback we get from the peer support groups, you'll have someone say, oh, please, can we do a peer support group in the afternoon? And it's like you desperately want to do it for that one person, but if the vast majority are evenings, you know, it's really hard, I think, because we do want to try and cater for as many people as possible. So I can see why that's such a challenge. Now, we know you work in terms of PoTS UK, you work completely voluntarily. I personally, certainly have a very good idea of just how much of your time is committed to the charity, and it's vast. Why do you do it? Like, what motivates you? And you've done it for, you know, lots of years now. What keeps you going?
I think what got me going at the beginning was just really seeing the impact that not being able to get a diagnosis or being misdiagnosed has on an individual, but not just the individual, on their family and their ability to work, their ability to look after their children and so on. So I think that was really what made me want to get involved in the first place. And I think as I've gone along, the other sort of side effect of working with a charity really is all the new friendships that I've made with trustees, with patients, with volunteers in the UK and abroad. That's been a really nice aspect of it as well.
Definitely, it's a nice team to be part of, isn't it? So, okay, and then finally, what are your hopes for the future of the PoTS and PoTS UK?
I think I just want to see it to continue to grow. I mean, it's been growing at an exponential rate in the past few years. It's sometimes a bit difficult to keep up, but I think just really more of the same, just keep growing in the way that we have. I mean, you've been behind setting up a volunteer network, and that's been huge, and that's been, you know, with all the support that we've been having from all the volunteers, that's allowed us as a charity to be able to do a lot more for patients. So yeah, more of the same.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much. I think it'll be nice for people to kind of have an insight into your role. And I think that without doubt, Leslie's always the one saying thank you. And I think it's just a nice opportunity really because we get loads of emails in and just, you know, thanking the charity for the support. But so much of that is because of you. So kind of on behalf of like all the volunteers and the trustees and, you know, our community, I think just thank you to you, because the charity would certainly not be where it is without you and your absolute kind of non-stop passion for making it better and making the change. So thanks, Lesley. So now I thought we'll have a chat with our lovely volunteers, Rachel and Louise. These ladies are an amazing support to me, and we've developed a really lovely, I hope we can say, friendship over, you know, the last couple of years. They're very much my go-to if I don't really know what to do about this, or I've got this idea, does it make sense? And they're just a fabulous support to me. So it's really nice to be able to include you today and kind of for you to share with people what it's like being a volunteer for PoTS UK. And explain a bit more about your roles and things like that. So let me find my questions. So if we start with Louise, what made you want to volunteer for PoTS UK, and how long have you volunteered and things like that?
Right. Oh, that's a good question, actually. So
quite a few years.
It's quite a few years. I think I was the first lonesome person, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was diagnosed by Dr. Gore in 2000, properly diagnosed in 2016, and I knew that I was going to be giving up work due to my ill health, and I just being a nurse, I wanted to put my energy somewhere, and I said, well, I'd love to perhaps do a PoTS clinic one day. And then he went, well, write to Lesley. Oh, really? So I left it a few months and emailed Lesley on the info, and we started conversing via email. And then she just suggested we had a meeting in London. So I went to London, and she rolled out a long list of jobs that you might be able to do. And I was like, I don't know if I understand most of these. So I started off little. It's just because I thought, I've got PoTS, I've got my nursing experience, it's something maybe I could help with. I just think I lacked confidence at that point because I had no direction, because it was skill-based. I didn't know where I should go. I think I started off little, and I started off reviewing some documentation. You're going to have to help me out on this, guys, because I can't remember it all. I've been doing the research documents to put into the library, the thank you cards at the end of the month, and then help with the retreat, the PoTS peer support groups, all the things that we've decided to sort of like roll out in the last year or so. There's a few other things. I've done some presentations for healthcare professionals on behalf of PoTS, although it was not directly linked to PoTS. So yeah, it's just I don't know if I'm going off tangent, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. It's focusing my mind, and to see where we've come and knowing that I'm part of that at the moment, it's been absolutely fabulous. So I think it's about 2017 I started with you guys, but I can't say I did too much there until the last couple of years.
Yeah. Oh, well, we've hugely, I mean, you've been with the charity longer than I have, and I think you've always been an amazing support. So thanks, Louise. And Rachel, the same for you. What kind of made you want to volunteer for the charity?
I think it was because originally, like in 2015, it was actually my GP who pointed me towards PoTS UK website. I'd never heard of PoTS before, and because of that, that actually led to me actually getting my diagnosis with PoTS. And also the information on the PoTS UK website about EDS, that led to my EDS diagnosis. And now I'm kind of going down the route of potentially, well, we're pretty certain I have mast cell, but I'm just, trying to go down that route of actually getting an official diagnosis. So I kind of feel like I just wanted to kind of give back to the charity, because if it wasn't actually for PoTS UK, I wouldn't have got all these diagnoses, And also I think it was just because, like Louise said, kind of, I felt like my health's been ill and kind of going downhill since 2008, and kind of I was struggling through university. I finished my master's. I didn't know where I was going. I wasn't, well enough to work. I didn't have any direction. And I just kind of wanted to do something to try and help make a difference, a positive difference. So I think I've now been volunteering with you for over 18 months now.
Yeah.
So can't believe that time's gone by.
I know.
Yeah.
Quick.
So like Louise, I kind of started out kind of reviewing documents and stuff, and then that kind of led on to this time last year when we did the PoTS UK survey. I did kind of data analysis for that, and then from there I've kind of done different pieces. I've been asked kind of like for feedback and my opinion on different things, like the new PoTS UK logo, the new PoTS UK merchandise, the website and stuff. And then that then led to the peer support groups, because one of the major things that came out from the surveys was the need and the want for the peer support groups. So I think we've been doing that for nearly a year, haven't we? Because that kind of came from the kind of survey. And then also I've been kind of involved with the kind of retreat as well, from the online side of things. And I guess, I'm just trying to think, like, there's probably things I've missed, but I'm just kind of like always, kind of there. And like Jo says, me and Louise try and be her sounding board, and, just to help whenever we can. So
which you absolutely are. So, and also just always so great. I've been like, if you remember this, or, don't forget that. And it's lovely to have that backup. And I think, like, it does feel like we've got our own peer support going within our group of volunteers, haven't we? Which is lovely.
Yeah.
And Louise, like, can you just give people sort of an idea of, I know, like, you were obviously on the retreat group. Can you just give people an idea of, like, how we divide out the tasks and, like, our project groups that we have for different things?
Well, this is where I think PoTS is so great. It's the team. Before we got the peer support team, there is a few others of us, but we all actually acknowledge where our strengths and weaknesses are. So it's a case of we're like a little avalanche, or a little snowball that goes into an avalanche. Someone starts with an idea, someone builds on top of it, and it's just a fantastic group of volunteers to work for. So, and what you do fantastically is send us an email, right, ladies, this is what we have, and hopefully there'll be more mint at one point. What do you think you're able to do? And it means that we've got the chance, with our health and with people that work, timings to decide what will suit our skills, what we might want to learn, and what we need to do. So the on the retreat, there was just me and another volunteer and you that started off the retreat, and for that it was just trying to make the retreat better than it was a few years ago, and to involve obviously as many PoTS patients as possible. I think we'd all decided that I think there would be thousands of PoTS patients that would love to be at the retreat. Unfortunately, health, money, mostly health, a lot of people won't be able to come. So that was where the idea of doing the hybrid and coming in, but that was quite a major task, because it's not something as a charity that we've ever done. So that obviously I'll explain a bit later. That's where we brought Rachel in. But I think, I'm not bigging myself up, but with me and the other volunteer, you had an idea of how would we cope a day at the retreat. So then with the suggestions of having a corner, having salty snacks ready for us, how to divide the retreat up so that the people that were at the retreat and were at home had the benefit of having a break, but also learning, because on any normal day, sitting a whole day and sort of taking it all in for any normal person is enough, let alone when you have PoTS. So yeah, it was, and obviously trying to get some goodie bags together. So it goes far beyond, right, there's a retreat, this is what we're going to do. So goodie bags to make it safe for us. The amount, I know you had an idea of who you were going to have to come to the retreat, as in speakers, but to make sure that they would come in, and advertisement to make sure that obviously people from PoTS wanted to come and listen. So it was, I mean, the task obviously wasn't as intense as the peer support group, but however, within the last couple of months before the retreat happened, you know yourself, it was very busy, wasn't it? It was
absolutely.
And obviously we had dysautonomia month, which piled everything on top of it. So I don't know if there's anything else I missed out with the retreat, apart from then obviously the hybrid bit, which you can help me out with, Rachel, because obviously, again, going back to skills, I mean, can I say before I go on, being with PoTS has given me confidence to do other things that I never normally would do, because I've had the support of all you guys. But obviously I'm not a tech person, and again, I knew to say to you, oh, last minute, what about Rachel? She's got time, not to put more onto her, she knows technically how it could work with a hybrid system. So I'll put that one over to you, Rachel, because you know that slightly more.
Yeah, so then, so as Louise said, then I kind of got involved in the kind of the hybrid side of things. So basically, like, I was just kind of helping with the online side of things. I was, just doing things like helping admit, participants when the speakers were on, making sure everyone was muted, kind of taking note of any questions that were asked. And then also I think we had breakout sessions. So then I think like me and Louise, then we went into kind of different breakout sessions and kind of did that. So so it was kind of just more kind of like managing kind of the online side of things. I think like so it went really well, and I definitely think it was really positive, because I myself, because of my health and being in Northern Ireland, I wouldn't have been able to be involved otherwise. So it kind of was a really good opportunity for me to kind of get involved and actually also join the retreat and listen to kind of the speakers as well. So,
and it was well organised to the point that we were able to, obviously I was actually meant to be going, unfortunately I couldn't, and us and a couple of more volunteers were able to sort of like relay any problems this side to you guys at the retreat. So that worked well, because if the problems hadn't been relayed, it may have made it more difficult for those at home. So whereas the instances could be resolved by you and everyone else at the retreat as and when it happened.
Absolutely. And I think like what you've both kind of done there by kind of giving a summary of your roles is to show like just how varied it can be. And I think we get lots of requests from people saying, you know, I'd like to volunteer, what can I do? And I just think it can be so varied. Like we'd never give you a task that was not within your comfort zone. And, you know, like Louise pointed out, it's really looking at people's skill sets. So we've got a very like short application form, and that's just to help us learn more about what people, where people's skills and interests lie. And we collect references and things, but it's I would say, hopefully you'll back me up in saying that, you know, it's an interesting and varied role and lots of opportunities to be involved in different things. So Rachel, in terms of more so than the role you've taken with the pilot, the peer support groups, can you kind of give people an idea of what the role of being a peer support volunteer is? Because we're obviously looking to recruit more peer support volunteers for our monthly online groups. Can you give people a bit of a flavour about that?
Yeah, so I'll just go briefly kind of over the journey of where because it's been like nearly a year kind of, so it's been like a long journey. So kind of this is kind of probably the project I've been kind of involved with the longest. So yeah, so as I said before, kind of from the surveys, that was kind of one of the major things that came out, you know, people wanting these kind of peer support groups. So, you know, so that's kind of where it kind of started. So then we kind of been along a long journey of kind of a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, you know, kind of mostly Joe's been kind of like organizing, you know, kind of things. And then during the summer, then me and Louise, we did our safeguard training, and also we had DBS checks. And then I think at that point, that was when Joe tried to start volunteering kind of more peer support, you know, volunteers, because obviously me and Louise can't just do it by ourselves. So we need a big team around us. So yeah, and it's kind of grown from there. So, and then like Joe said, we did our kind of pilot groups in October. And they were like a really good success, and I think we got really good feedback. So we've just kind of you know, rolled them out now from kind of January onwards, and we're kind of got like, we're covering all the different regions of the UK, and we also have a parents and carers group and a newly diagnosed group. And sorry, in the newly diagnosed group, it can be people who are awaiting diagnosis or people who have been diagnosed in the past 12 months. So basically, the idea is we have like peer support kind of volunteers for each region. So we're trying to get volunteers in that region to kind of host that region. So in the peer support groups, generally, like we have like a person who leads kind of the session. And then we also have like a backup person who kind of, you know, helps with like the chat box and stuff, and kind of keeps an eye on and stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, it's been like a long journey, and you know, we have like a fabulous team of peer support volunteers. I think there's about 19 of us now. Yeah. So yeah, so everyone of those volunteers have gone, you know, undergone the safeguard training and the DBS checks and stuff, and you know, most of them are kind of volunteering in kind of their, you know, kind of regional areas now. So yeah, I think it's, you know, going well so far. And yeah, I think we've got really good positive feedback so far from the group. So, you know, hopefully that will keep going, and hopefully we'll be able to grow the groups more in the future. So yeah, we're looking, as Joe said, we're looking for more people to help us with this, you know, in every region, you know, of the UK. And yeah, if you would be interested, you know, we'd love to have you kind of join us and become part of our team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you contact volunteer@potsuk.org and ask for some more information, we can send that to you. Again, I'll put all of the information into the comments and stuff. But yeah, it's a lovely thing to be part of. Our existing 19 volunteers are a really great group. It seems like a really nice kind of feel between everybody, and there's just a lot of kindness and support there. So it's been a great thing to be part of. I think we're particularly looking at the moment for 18 to 21-year-olds who would be willing to lead groups for people under the age of 18. And this is something we're really keen to get started, because I think people under the age of 18 can just get left so much, and we're constantly being told by them and parents and carers, you know, there's just no support out there for my teenager or my child, and that's, you know, a gap that we really want to address. So we're looking for that. And it would also be great to have a men's only group. We've had some, you know, we've had quite a few men attending the sessions, but I think it would be nice to have a group. So if there's any men out there who'd like to potentially lead those sessions, that would be great as well. But we are looking for people, all people, to join, so do get in touch.
And the people will be supported by us. We'll make sure if they're new and that, and just to let, I don't want people to think that we're going to pop in and out of groups if they need, or if someone calls us and wants a hand in the group. But yeah, other than that, it has been excellent. It's such a good start for PoTS UK.
Definitely. Well, thank you both so much kind of for giving a bit of an overview of what your role entails, and hopefully people will find that useful and might make them kind of consider volunteering for the charity, which would be amazing. I'm just going to share my screen again now. Hold on. Oh, I don't know why. Can you all see a funny thing in the middle of that now?
Yeah.
Hold on 2 seconds. Let me just try and get rid of that. What are you saying about not being good at tech, Louise? I think I might have the same problem. Right, here we go. That's a bit better. Okay, so our plans for 2022 as a charity. So like we've just said, we'd love to grow the peer support groups further, particularly launching groups for under 18s. We've got a large PoTS survey. Lesley, are you okay just to kind of give a bit of an overview of what that is? And I know we haven't got a definite date yet, but what that entails.
Sure. So I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, we did quite a big survey when the charity was quite a lot smaller, and we had over 1,000 people respond within a week, which was fantastic. We got lots of really useful information from that we've been able to use, for example, when we're sort of appealing for better services for patients, or you know, funding to develop educational tools and things like that. But it is a little bit out of date. Things have moved on. So we've been planning for some months now another survey, and we've engaged the help of one of our local universities as well for support with ethical approval and you know, to help us better develop the questions. So we're actually quite close to the end of that process for an adult survey, and then we're also hoping to launch one for children, which Susie up in Scotland's been helping me a lot with, and we'll obviously advertise that as soon as it's launched, so that we can get as many people responding to it as we can.
Definitely. I think as well, like, we will really kind of try and get as much engagement with it as possible, because that information will feed in and make a real difference to, you know, what we can do, and like Lesley said, support it with our lobbying and things. But you know, apologies in advance, because no doubt you will get bored of seeing it on social media. It is a big survey. It's not, you know, you sit down and 10 seconds later you're done. And we all understand about survey fatigue. I started doing one today, got to question 3, and I was like, oh no, I can't do this. And I thought, that's so terrible, because this is exactly what I'm going to be telling people to do. So I think, you know, if you can, knowing that it's coming, if you can think, I'm going to really commit the time that it takes, sit down, put your feet up, get a cup of tea, and we would genuinely be so grateful, because it really will shape what we're able to do moving forwards, and it helps with research and everything. So really can't stress the importance of it enough, and you know, the care taken to fill it in. So thank you, and apologies in advance for the fact that I'll be going, please. We're also, we're just in the very early stages of planning an educational event for healthcare professionals in the first half of this year. We've got big plans, and we're hoping that they'll all come to fruition, but we'll have more information on that soon. But we're hoping to have that and offer hopefully in the first half of this year. Awareness Day and Awareness Month in October is always a big time for us, and a big push on trying to raise awareness. It's kind of growing in popularity each year, and in terms of support, it's always a really great time for fundraising for the charity as well. So what we're encouraging people to do is kind of get organised. I know October is a long way off, but sometimes when you want to put a big plan in place, it takes a lot of work. So if you've got an idea of what you might like to do, start thinking about it. And we're always really keen to support anybody that's fundraising for us, or that's just got an awareness campaign that they're setting up themselves. So do get in touch with us. We've got a new app that we're hoping to launch that kind of later in the year. There's be more information coming on that soon. And we're also planning lots more webinars. So like I said earlier, we've got them on our YouTube channel. We started these in April 2020, kind of at the start of lockdown. And we've got more of these coming. So we've got one with William Whitehouse on orthostatic intolerance in young people. And that's on the 2nd of March. And we've got quite a few more in the pipeline as well. So keep an eye on the website and social media for more information about those. And then we get loads of emails in saying, like, what can I do to support you? I haven't got very much time, but I'd really like to give something back to the charity. So just some ideas, obviously, as we've talked about today, you could volunteer. Sharing our 10 facts about PoTS document, which can be found on our downloadable leaflets, and our What is PoTS video. Again, I'll add all of these links to the comments. Sharing your story is such a valuable one. We get so much positive feedback about the stories on the website. I think because you don't often meet somebody else that's got PoTS, or rarely speak to anybody that's heard of it, it's just lovely to be able to read people's stories and relate to them, and hopefully get some hope from them as well. Really encouraging people to write to their local GPs, CCGs or MPs. And again, we've got downloadable templates on our website. Feel free to freestyle and write your own letter. We've just provided a draft to give people, you know, to make it easier for people, but you can amend this to, you know, however you feel is best to tackle it. We do suggest, rather than emailing, that you actually send a letter, because I'm sure everyone will know people get bombarded with hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. So whilst it might be a bit old fashioned, sometimes a kind of a hard copy letter is a good way to go. For people at schools and universities, colleges, asking whether you can do an assembly or a staff briefing and do a small presentation just to educate people. Just the more people that know, the better. And I think definitely, I feel personally in the last 6 months, the more I talk to people about it, they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. And I think that all of these, you know, news articles, and I know that not everybody's always happy with how PoTS is portrayed in the articles, and it's not a very accurate definition and all of those things, but what's paramount is that it's being talked about, and people are starting to get an awareness. So, you know, it is progress forward. Fundraising, the charity really couldn't do what it does without people fundraising, and we're so grateful for every penny raised and donated. So we're very keen to try and support people. If there's anything we can do, then do get in touch. I've already talked about getting ready for our awareness day. On the website, we've got some great merchandise. I'm currently modelling one of our PoTS UK hoodies, so you can have these, they're zip-up hoodies, and you can have them in grey, purple, or this turquoisey colour. And we've got notebooks and lanyards and teddy bear key rings and pens and all sorts of things. So it's, you know, very much both helping support the charity financially, but also, you know, it's conversation starters and it's raising awareness. So that's another way. I've talked about completing our surveys, and then most importantly, and I think most of us do this, is just talk about PoTS at every opportunity you get. I bore people, I'm sure, to death, but I don't mind. I think I just, at every opportunity I have, and I try and raise awareness about it. Yeah, every single person that knows is another step forward in the journey of what we're trying to achieve. So if you can do that, then that would be great. I'm going to, so there's my email address, joe@potsuk.org. I'll also put it all in the details, but I'll just stop sharing that now, and we'll have a look at some questions. So if people who are listening want to add anything to the Q&A box now, then feel free. We have had some emails in. Leslie, have you had a chance to have a look at the question in the Q&A box? Because it's quite lengthy.
Yes.
So yeah, are you able to answer that one?
Okay. I think we're the only ones that can see it. Is that right? So
Yes,
shall I read
right.
it? How are PoTS UK able to help sufferers during a flare? My daughter, aged 20, was diagnosed by Dr. Gall last year and is dealing with various symptoms and flare-ups. She feels that she doesn't have anywhere to turn to discuss symptoms, what aches and pains are normal with the condition, and so on. GPs seem to dismiss them, which then increases anxiety. And while she can make appointments with Dr. Gall privately, sometimes all she needs is to speak with someone who knows what she's going through. Does the charity have a helpline or a chat option, or are there any plans? I'm hearing about peer support groups, but don't know much about this. Thank you very much. So, I mean, hopefully that question was placed there a bit earlier on, and so hopefully you know a little bit more about the peer support groups and the role that they might have. I think we do sometimes get asked if we have or if we will have a telephone helpline, and no, we don't have one at the moment. We would love to have one. I think one of the issues is that, I mean, at the moment we have funding for 21 hours of paid time a week, and I think, you know, to run that, it would just consume all that time and we wouldn't be able to do anything else. You know, I think in the future, if we do have more funding, or, you know, possibly more volunteers that you know, would have the skills to undertake this role, then that is something that we might be able to roll out. But I think we're just too small a charity to be able to manage that at the moment. But there are other options. I receive emails on a daily basis from patients, sometimes when they're particularly unwell, and Mel also answers the support at PoTS UK. So you can email in inquiries when you need to, and we aim to respond within a week, but quite often we respond within a day, or sometimes even within an hour. There are, unfortunately, we're not, as a charity, allowed to give medical advice. And I recently retired as a doctor, but even when I was working as a doctor, I'm not actually allowed to give medical advice to patients as a charity, because we don't know enough about the individual's health details and their personal medical history. But what we can do is we can give advice about questions that patients might be able to ask, or we can perhaps point them to resources where they might be able to get the sort of information that they need to support them. And then, you know, there are also some chatty, less formal social media groups that are not monitored in the way that ours is, and you know, some people find that they're comfortable posting in these and asking questions, and you know, if they want to have a chat and know if other people have experienced the same thing, then you know, that's an option available to them as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Rachel, did you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to just say about the peer support groups. Obviously, I covered them, but I think just to pick up what this person has said, you know, sometimes all she needs, you know, her daughter needs is someone to speak with, so you know, to speak with someone who knows what, you know, she's going through, and that is kind of, I just want to say that's kind of what our real heart of the peer support group, you know, are. Like, as Leslie says, you know, as peer support volunteers, we're not allowed to give medical advice, but we can share our experiences. So I think it's just so, I mean, for me, even just being, yeah, okay, I'm leading them, but I also really enjoy just participating in them, because I, you know, just love kind of listening to other people's experiences, because it just really helps me to feel like I'm not the only one going through this, you know, it's not just me. And I think just that has a real powerful kind of impact on your kind of mental health as well, you know, because it is really hard to deal with these conditions, you know, and it can be a really lonely journey. So just to have kind of that peer support and people there to kind of talk to, you know, really helps. So I would really encourage this person to get their daughter to maybe think about joining in with the peer support groups if they haven't done already.
And then another option as well, thank you, Rachel, another option is if you email trustees@potsuk.org, you can ask a question in confidence on Facebook. So you send it to us, we'll put it onto Facebook for you, and PoTS UK will provide their response on what they, you know, they feel is the the correct advice to provide, or correct experience and knowledge to give, but it also gives people an opportunity then to share their experiences, but without having to be named if you don't want to. So there's that option as well. Lesley, something we get asked a lot, and that was emailed in as well, is how frustrating the long COVID and PoTS association is. So nobody, I'm paraphrasing here, but nobody cared about PoTS, and then suddenly long COVID comes along and everybody's obsessed with PoTS, and it's frustrating because these people have been poorly for a month or two, and I've suffered with it for 18 years and nobody's ever cared. Like, what would your response, and what would the charity's view on that be?
I think and we absolutely share the frustration that people have been having these problems for such a long time and have often been ignored. But what we're finding, actually, the long COVID situation is opening a whole new bank of doors for us, that, for example, it's raising awareness about PoTS. It's providing funding for research which will involve PoTS. There's lots of opportunities for teaching about PoTS. So, for example, I can be invited to give a talk on long COVID, and I focus on the autonomic dysfunction, and half of my talk can be actually about PoTS. And whilst perhaps it seems that the focus is on the long COVID, and it is, people who are learning about it are learning about PoTS in general as well. So what I'm finding is that people who come to learn about long COVID are starting to think, well, actually, I've had these patients that have had these symptoms for a while, and I wonder if it's PoTS, and maybe I need to go back and look at that. Or perhaps if they're GPs who are related to long COVID clinics, they suddenly know how to manage their non-COVID PoTS patients. So whilst I wouldn't wish the long COVID situation on anybody, I think it has actually opened a lot of opportunities for people with PoTS who don't have COVID, and I think in the long term it will be to everyone's benefit.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think I echo that thought. We definitely understand the frustrations, don't we? But I think already we've seen opportunities present themselves, haven't we, that we wouldn't have had otherwise, and we are grabbing them with both hands at every opportunity. So, okay, thank you. Somebody's asked why we don't have local face-to-face support groups. I think there's a couple of things there, aren't there, Lesley, in terms of financially, it's a much bigger commitment. We would have to have buildings, insurance. There's also the element of lots of people attending these groups are very able to attend via Zoom, but attending in person would be so much more problematic. And I think hopefully by starting these groups online, we're not saying that we could never ever arrange anything in local areas, but it's kind of giving people an opportunity to connect with people in their local areas. But I don't necessarily feel at the moment face-to-face support groups would be the way forward. And particularly, with the last 2 years with COVID, and we still don't know where we're at, do we? I think we will be remaining online for the foreseeable future. Have you got anything to add to that, Lesley?
We have run face-to-face ones. We've had them and we've tried to scatter them. So we've had them in Glasgow, Newcastle, London, Coventry. So I know there's a lot of people can't access them, but within the size of charity, it's just, we just don't have the capacity to be able to roll them out in a lot more places at the moment. As we grow, it may be that there will be other opportunities to do a bit more of that, but I think at the moment having them online is the best way forward.
And can I sort of like go on the back of what Lesley says? With the online groups, we leave the after the group's ended, we leave the chat box open for 10 minutes or so that if anyone's connected and want to share details of where they live, which is entirely up to them, they can start making their friendships there. So it's an opportunity to then decide upon, individuals can decide whether they need to meet up at that. So I think that kind of sort of at the moment sort of squidges that little barrier that we do have from not having a sort of face-to-face group.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it's just down to individuals at the time, isn't it? And it's not something, PoTS UK will never ever share anybody's information after the group. So it's just an opportunity to do that. But it's, again, it's giving people those opportunities, but very much down to the individual if they want to. So good point, Louise. There's been another question come through. Is there any research happening regarding PoTS patients who haven't acquired it due to a post-viral type scenario? I'm interested to eventually know what the difference could or might be. Lesley?
I mean, there is a fair amount of research going on around the world, and there were projects that started before COVID that are trying to work out what caused PoTS, what is communities, big one, but and there are still projects that are ongoing and new projects coming up that are not related to viral PoTS and not related to COVID PoTS. So I think that's going to be happening anyway. And it's going to be very interesting to compare the profile of patients who had it from COVID or other viral causes with the profile of the patients who don't have it in relation to a virus. You know, for example, what symptoms the patients have, what treatments they respond to, and so on. And I think that's all gradually happening. There's not enough, but it's still happening for the viral and the non-viral patients.
Okay. And then I think we've probably only got time for one more question. I can see that there's a couple more that have popped up, but I will add those to our Facebook page, and so people can respond. There's one about nursing jobs, but because we've not got very much time, I think one that came in that I think a lot of people would be keen to know the answer to is, why don't a lot of specialists know about PoTS? Have you got any input on that, Lesley?
So I think in terms of it being a new condition, you know, it is still a relatively new condition. So it takes a long time to make its way into things like, you know, training curriculums. And so that's one reason. I think another reason is that it hasn't really been seen as a priority because people generally don't die of PoTS. It just isn't given the same priority as some other conditions. I do think the COVID situation is changing that, because people are realizing that you know, the number of, for example, healthcare professionals that are off with long COVID, and a lot of them have got autonomic problems, and so they're beginning to realize that it's not just the impact on the patient, but it's the impact on the health service, on the economy, and so on. So, and again, that eventually filters through to the non-COVID patients as well. Does that answer?
Yeah, definitely. Right now, well, that's our hour is up, so I think we'll need to leave it there. If we've got any other questions we haven't covered, we will address these. We'll either contact you or we'll add them to our social media, so that kind of anonymously, I always struggle with that word, so that people can have their input and give you their suggestions. But thank you to everybody who attended, and everybody who's watching on YouTube. Thanks for taking the time to watch it. Lesley?
I was just going to say, if Eve wants to email us at PoTS UK, I can try to answer her question, that specific one. But
yeah, so Eve, if you email info@potsuk.org, Lesley will be really happy to answer that question for you. And we can always share it on social media as well, so that other people can benefit from it. But thanks everybody for giving up their time. Really, really grateful. Is there anything else anybody wants to add before we finish? No? Brilliant. Well, lovely to see you all. Thanks so much. Bye.